everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've done an interview with a player, and to be honest, with the upcoming Game Changers Championship that's going to be happening next month, I really wanted to interview a Game Changers player once again. So here is Alexis. She plays for C9. I'm sure so many people know who you are because you're basically a celebrity. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So, obviously, you guys have just qualified for the Game Changers Championship that's coming next month. But I want to park that for now because there's so much about you leading up until that point that I feel like we need to cover. So, from the very beginning, you're not particularly old. You're 20 years old. And not only do you have this kind of history in Valorant, but you also have quite a history in CSGO as well. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I didn't really have the same kind of passion for video games that my older brother did. I would just watch him play. I didn't really feel the desire to play. I was just having fun watching him. And then I got my own computer because he was always hogging the computer, obviously. And I got my own computer and he introduced me to Gary's Mod, which is the first game that had guns in it that I played. So I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. Yeah, right. I'm playing Gary's Mod Jailbreak and I'm like, this is kind of fun. And then eventually he was like, oh, you should buy Counter-Strike. And I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this game. And he was begging me to play it with him. And we would only play the game mode against bots. We didn't even want to play against normal people because that's how bad we were. So we were just playing together against bots. And then eventually I was like, yo, we should try and play ranked. And then we were playing ranked and I got placed Silver II, which is the second lowest rank in the game. So I was like, okay, I'm not very good at this, but it's kind of fun. And eventually he just stopped playing, but I continued playing and I ended up getting Supreme Master First Class, which is the second highest rank in that game. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do something with this. Then I found out what ESEA was through some of my friends that I met on that game, and there was an actual league to be a pro player. So then I made a team with some friends. I played on a couple co-ed teams, and then eventually I ended up on a team called Nemesis, which was an all-female team. And we were not paid. We were just under this org banner, but it was still the first actual team I was on. And then eventually I joined Anew, which is a bunch of other Game Changers players who are in Valorant now are also on that team, like Naomi, who was on V1, Athena, who's on TSM now, a bunch of players who also switched over. And that was my first real team. We got a salary.
Was it real money?
It was real money, but it was I could get more at McDonald's, you know what I mean? It wasn't anything crazy. But it was still so surreal to be paid anything to play a video game. So then Valorant came out. And I was a bit hesitant about switching to Valorant. I wasn't sure if I would even like it. I had never played Overwatch and everyone was saying it was Overwatch and CSGO combined, and I was maybe not for me. But then Mel, who is our IGL obviously, reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to come play on this team with me in Valorant? And she has been my best friend for the last 6 or 7 years at this point. And I had never had the opportunity to play on a team with her. And I was just like, oh my God, I have to. So I kind of made the switch, not blindly, because I was playing Valorant, I was enjoying it, but I didn't know if I wanted to really go crazy, go pro in it. But she really convinced me that it was going to be worth it. And it obviously was.
How long did it take for you to realize, okay, I'm kind of done with CS and Valorant is the wave?
After playing Valorant for a few weeks,
I kind of
yeah, it was just it felt like the obvious switch because there had already been female tournaments happening, smaller ones, but then Riot announced the FTW Showdown, which was the biggest female tournament that they had at the time. That was the first one. And I had never played a female tournament like that in CS. And I had played that game for 5 years and there just never was one. And so it was okay, this game obviously has such a greater platform for women to be playing. I love the team that I'm on. I'm such close friends with these people, especially Mel. Mel's my best friend. I'm having so much fun playing with all these people. I am getting the hang of the game, albeit maybe not great at it yet. I was playing Sage and Reyna, and I was just having fun.
Nice.
I had no idea what was going on, but I was having fun. And eventually I kind of forgot about CS. After I had found like a love for Valorant, I kind of forgot about CS.
That first team that you were on, is it pronounced MAJKL? Because it's all of your,
Yeah.
it was all of your like initials, right?
Yeah, it's a MAJKL, yeah.
Oh, magic. Oh, that's so smart. I was like, I don't know how to pronounce this. Was it Mel who reached out to all of the players and kind of brought everybody together, or was it just you that she reached out to and then everything else was kind of a joint thing?
So I think the core was Mel, Jazzy, and Annie. And I think it's because they played in. So there was, I think Miss Harvey was running an invitational like tournament, and it was like there was captains, and then you drafted a team, and Mel just so happened to have like drafted Jazzy and Annie and like 2 other players onto her team. And then I was a captain, and I had like random people who I didn't really even know. And then after that, she was like, "Oh, like you're playing Valorant, like do you want to come join the team?" And then I think I was the last person that they needed for the team, and Mel had reached out to Kat as well,
Right.
and was like, "Hey, you want to come play?" But I was like the last person to join the team.
Okay. All right. Well, can't all be first, I guess. Did you at that point kind of expected to go anywhere, or was it sort of like, you went into this tournament that was like Riot had opened this females tournament. It wasn't anything that you had experienced in CS, and you were just kind of like taken by that first experience, or was there something in your head that was like, maybe this can be something?
I think at first, when we were just MAJKL and we were just scrimming every day, I kind of thought of it as the same as my CS teams, where we were practicing every day and we were playing matches and we were playing in female tournaments and co-ed tournaments, but we never really got anywhere with it. Like we were seen as maybe like the 3rd or 4th best female team in CS, but it still wasn't where we wanted to be. And it felt like we could do more with it. But in Val, when I was playing on MAJKL, I didn't really know what the scene would look like because it was so new. Like we were MAJKL in beta. Like there was very few teams altogether, but we were the only female team. So we didn't have any expectations for like winning an all-female tournament or anything like that. We just wanted to
Yeah.
play and be good and like have fun, and also maybe win some of these co-ed tournaments because that was all that existed at the time. And then once the all-female FTW showdown was announced, we were like, oh, obviously we're going to win because we're the only female team who's even practicing. Like none of these other female teams even have a full 5, are scrimming as much as we do. We're scrimming every single day. Like we're doing VOD review every day. So we were like very confident going in, but also very nervous because these pro female CS players that we all had looked up to were also playing in this tournament. So we were a little bit like, okay,
Now they're like your equals,
right,
in
yes.
a sense. Yeah.
So we're thinking like, okay, so is our Valorant skill that we've accumulated over this time that they haven't been playing going to outweigh their Counter-Strike experience and knowledge of more fundamentals than we had? And we played them the first round. We played like Emmy, Diane, like some of the CLG Red girls in CS, and we 13-3'd them. And then we were like, okay, we're good to go. We're fine. And then we went out the tournament without dropping a map. So that was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so this is kind of like getting into that era where you actually get picked up by Cloud9. I mean, firstly, what was that like even being approached by Cloud9?
It was genuinely very surreal. Like at the time, I don't think I felt the full scope of what was happening, but looking back, I was like, Jesus, that was crazy. And it wasn't just Cloud9 that had reached out to us. It was every org that you can think of off the top of your head right now reached out to us. Every single one. And we literally got to pick and choose. And I think with Cloud9, we were more inclined to take the talks further with them because they had reached out to us. A woman had reached out to us and was very adamant about like that we wouldn't just be a female team. Like the org wanted us to compete in co-ed tournaments. Like we didn't want to join an org and just have them want us to win all the female tournaments. Like, we wanted them to
Yeah.
support us in being the best team we possibly could, the best team ever. Like, we wanted them to support us in our actual goal, which was
Like, you
to be
didn't
the
feel
best team.
pigeonholed by them.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay, I get you. Because it's interesting because, so Cloud9 and I guess then Dignitas were kind of two of the first organizations to really, like, properly pick up, like, a female roster. Did you, like, have a feeling of almost being, like, trailblazers in a sense around that time?
Yes, because not only were we the first team to get signed in Valorant, because Dignitas was already signed in CS, and they had them just kind of swap over. They were playing Counter-Strike and Valorant at the same time for a while. They were not like a full Valorant team until I think after we got signed. So we were the first female team to be signed, but we were also the first female team ever in Valorant because no other female team had existed. So it was kind of crazy to kind of set the scene for female Valorant and kind of set the the expectation of like what teams should be striving for at the time. And obviously still now, I think, because nobody can beat us still. So that that was definitely crazy for sure.
I mean, you guys came like, for kind of lack of a better term, almost like instant celebrities in a sense. There was a lot of attention on all of you, like when C9 picked you up. Did you feel that? I mean, what was that like?
I don't know. I mean, it was weird to go from like 700 followers to like 10,000 in like a week. Like that was a little bit strange. But it was so much support. Like there was very little negative comments after we got signed, which I was kind of surprised about. I thought that there would be more like negativity surrounding that, but there really wasn't. It was a lot of support, and we were the first female team that Cloud9 ever picked up in any game. So we were kind of expecting worse, and it was a really positive experience.
Like, it's actually funny just to kind of, go on a tangent a little here, because I, previous to Valorant, came from Rainbow Six. And Cloud9, when they had a North American team in Rainbow Six, very famously championed the one female player they had on that team. And they were the only team that had a female player on it. So it's kind of interesting to hear you say this about how, like, they were really not just willing to, like, support you guys as a female team, but also wanting to push you into being the best team full stop and actually getting to compete co-ed as well, because that's something I've seen them do in the past in another game too.
Right, yeah.
And actually, early on when you got picked up by them, you did play in a number of co-ed tournaments, because this was before Game Changers even existed. This was before it was announced. How valuable do you think that experience of playing in all those different co-ed tournaments was?
It was the best decision we could have made as a team at the time, because we could have just scrimmed and tried our best to figure it out on our own, but to actually play in these co-ed tournaments, get curb stomped occasionally, like get absolutely destroyed, and then be able to VOD review those games, learn from our mistakes so quickly, and keep trying over and over until we made it further each time. That is what we try to preach to other female teams who aren't doing that still. Playing in co-ed tournaments gets you the most experience because you're playing against people at your own caliber, but also people who are better than you, and you learn so much from literally getting destroyed by these teams, because that is exactly what we did, and we didn't like lose hope in ourselves. Like, we weren't depressed about it. We were like, wow, like they did some really cool stuff that game. Like, let's try and copy some of it. Let's try and, next time they do this, we could do this. Like, trying to learn from all of our mistakes that we made, and it was easily the best decision we could have made as a team.
Because, then you had like stage 1, or what was it, challenger 1 of the first VCT tournament, and you guys played in the qualifiers, got knocked out by XSET, who, to be honest, given what happened to the core of that team, like going forward, like,
that was a good team.
If you're gonna be knocked out by anyone, might as well be them. But what was that like? I mean, was it daunting to even go into VCT when it first started?
It was definitely daunting, but also we were absolutely up for the challenge. I don't want to say I was happy we were knocked out by XSET, but I was happy that a team of that caliber had to be the ones to take us out. Like, I'm glad we didn't get first rounded by Penn State, because I think that's the team that we played first, and I think we 13-0 for them or something crazy. Um, but I was happy to at least prove that we could get to the point where we could be playing against signed teams like Xset. Um, so that was nice that we didn't just go out very quickly and we actually put up a decent fight against Xset IMO, at least on the first map.
Yeah. And then it wasn't long after that that the first Game Changers series rolled around.
Mhm.
Now, before even like going into the competition, what were your kind of opinions of the competition in terms of like the teams that you were going to be coming up against? Were you feeling confident back then? Did you think that you were gonna win, or did you think it was going to be a hard hard go at it?
The only team we were really concerned about was, I think they were called Hamboigas, and they're still called Hamboigas now because they're competing in Valorant full time. And that was the CLG Red roster from CS. And like I said, we were concerned about, would their CS experience outweigh our Valorant experience?
Mhm.
And it didn't. So after we beat them in the first game, like the first, I think it was a BO1 actually, the first BO1, we were very confident for the rest of the tournament because we knew we're the only team scrimming. All these other teams are pug teams. Like none of them have real practice or real co-ed experience or match experience, and we do. And we just we were really worried after that. And then finals came around, and I think the closest game we had was the last map of the final, which was 13-11. And that was against, I think, like Benita, Miss Harvey, and Potter, who were all like people who I had looked up to in CS. And it was kind of crazy to play against Miss Harvey and Potter and beat them. Like,
Yeah.
those were the 2 girls that I adored in CS. I watched
Mhm.
their streams all the time. Potter would, post, like, VOD reviews on YouTube. I was watching those. Like, those were the 2 girls that I really, really looked up to, and being able to say that I beat them after that match was so crazy. It was so insane. Um but yeah, we really, after the first BO1, we were so confident for the rest of the tournament. Like, we were
Yeah.
pretty set on winning that one.
Did you have like a feeling of like being a champion of something after you won that grand final?
Um, in hindsight, yeah, but at the time, I was just like, "Damn, that was fun." Like, I at the time, I was like, "Damn, that was fun to play with you guys." Like, that was a cool game. I think I was more, like, starstruck by, like, beating my idols, and
Yeah.
it didn't really click for me until probably a few days after that I was like, "Wow, I just won a tournament." Like, I was the one who won it. I won the tournament. And then I was
Just
like,
like it hits
"Okay."
you.
Yeah, it hit me like a few days later. It was a little bit delayed response, but after the fact, yeah, I think it definitely was a bit, it was crazy to feel like I won something because I had never won anything before.
Was there much of a difference in feeling of knowing that you were competing in the VCT qualifiers and then knowing that you're competing in game changers? Did they feel like a different sort of weight?
Yeah, I think we definitely had more pressure on ourselves in probably in the women's tournament. We had more pressure on ourselves because we wanted to be the best ever, and we knew we had more experience than any other, like, female team at the time. So, if we had lost in the first tournament, I think it would've killed our confidence a little bit because we had been working so hard. But
Yeah.
also, when we were playing in VCT, our only goal was just to push as hard as we possibly could. It wasn't like there was no pressure on us to win or lose because we didn't know what we could do. We just wanted to, like, limit test how far we could go, and it was like there was just a lot less pressure playing in the co-ed tournaments just because, like I said, we just wanted to limit test how far we could possibly go, and in the female tournaments, we knew we could win, so it was just different, but it was probably more pressure to play in the women's tournaments.
Yeah. I mean, after you won that first Game Changer series, Series 2 rolls around and you win it again against the same team in the grand finals.
Mhm.
What did it feel like after that to sort of did you feel like you sort of outgrew that rivalry? Because for those first 2 series, it's like, okay, wow, like we're continuously coming up against this same team, we're proving ourselves. But after that, like you really kind of pull ahead.
Mhm. Um, I don't know. It's hard to say because we were so consistent compared to any other team. We are so consistent in how we practice and in how we improve. Like, our process is like, okay, we play in co-ed tournaments. We're not winning, but we're coming closer each time. So then we bot review our tournaments. We're like, okay, XYZ happened. This is what we need to do to change it. These are the comps we're going to run. You know, we're not thinking of it in, okay, what do we need to do to beat CLG Red? We're thinking of it like, okay, what do we need to do to beat these co-ed teams? And what do we need to do to be the best team ever? Like, be on the level of Optic. Obviously, Optic, I don't think existed back then, but like, just to be the best
Yeah.
team we can. So when other female teams have the mindset of like, okay, we need to beat Cloud9 White, they're
It's like
putting
you're limiting
you're limiting
your
your
aims.
skill ceiling. Like, you need to have higher goals than that. Because we have higher goals than that. In order to beat us, you have to play in co-ed tournaments. I will keep preaching that forever. We all say this. If you don't play in co-ed tournaments, you'll never be the best. Like, it's just impossible. It really is, because you're limiting yourself to only playing against female teams, and female teams are not as good as like Optic or 100 Thieves or like a tier 1 team. You need to compare yourself to a tier 1 team and try and strive to be that, because that's what we do.
I'm interested. Why do you think that is?
Why do I think female teams don't play in co-ed tournaments?
No, why do you think that there is a kind of fundamental skill difference?
I think it's just due to the fact that, like, you mean between men and women?
Yeah, well, but at least between the male teams and the current female teams. I don't necessarily mean like men have some sort of DNA thing that makes them better.
Yeah, I don't think that at all.
Yeah.
So I think one has to be lack of experience. Like, for Cloud9 White, this is, for most of us, besides me and Jazzy, no one has been on like a proper team that practices every single day before. A lot of the top tier 1 teams and tier 1 players have all played in CSGO for years and have tons of experience in CS. Also, when I played CS, I was shy. Obviously, I was a young girl. I was like 14, and being able to even use my mic was something that was difficult for me, because I would play matchmaking and I would get kicked from the game if I used my mic and I sounded a certain way. So also having stressors like men harassing us, threatening us for just talking in a game obviously limits how much we can play because of our mental ability to handle that. And also, I think for a lot of teams now in Valorant, there is a level of wanting to be the best female team for a lot of teams, as far as I can see. Like, people, their only goal is to beat us, and I think that limits how hard people work. I can tell which teams work hard and which ones don't, just by how they place in tournaments. And I think we are obviously the closest to being a tier 1 team. Obviously, we're not there, but that is our goal. And Cloud9 White is not, the goal is not to be the best female team, like I said, but also if there is an opportunity for our players to go off and join a tier 1 team, they would, that is what,
welcome to.
Yeah, that is like the whole point of the team, is like to build us into tier 1 players, regardless if we stay a team and we get there together. The whole point is just to build us into tier 1 players, because that's never been done before, and we're so close to being there. So I think Valorant is a really good game for setting up women to be tier 1 players, but we have to get out of this mindset where we need to be the best female team or the best female player. You just need to be the best player, and by default, you're going to be the best female player or the best female team. So it's just like a mindset shift, I think, that needs to happen.
That's interesting. So it's funny because like I was, gonna like ask things about like Shopify have been this big rival of yours like for most of this year, but it's almost like that's not necessarily the relevant part. The relevant part is what's way beyond that for you.
Yeah. I think Shopify is one of the teams that also plays in co-ed, and I think they are one of the teams that has that same mindset as us. I will say though that I think that they need more time. I can tell that they aren't super mentally on the same level as us when it comes to competition, because I remember when we played 2 game changers ago, we went into overtime with them on bind. It was 14-12. I think we came back,
Mhm.
and then we played them in finals and we 13-4'd them on bind. So it seemed like because of how crushed they were from that game, they
It had
gave up
that
in the
effect.
finals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then last game changers was the closest game changers we've had with them. Again, we came back on all 3 maps the in the grand finals, and it was
Mhm.
like 10-4, 9-3, we're coming back. And it just seems like they can't stay in it. And again, this game changers, it just felt like in the finals they gave up. And I don't know if they're actually giving up, but that just like from our point of view, they're they just don't seem like they're trying super hard. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I just wish that they could work on their mental a little bit and
Right.
try to avoid cracking under pressure, maybe. I think they just need some more time, like, as a team, because they keep doing roster changes as well.
Mhm.
So I think more time as a team, as a set 5, and maybe playing in more co-ed tournaments and getting more reps, under pressure would help.
Yeah. I mean, because it was interesting as well, because that last grand finals that you guys played in, you uh the 2 banned maps were the maps that you guys had played in the upper bracket finals just prior as well, right? So it was
Mhm.
like a completely
Yeah.
fresh slate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of going back to the point that you were making before about how you want to kind of be set up for this co-ed and what you think is really important. Game Changers as a whole, as a concept, obviously has had its share of controversy in the sense of some people are not in favor of kind of women's leagues and some people are. And you kind of see this sort of middle ground where you see it almost as a springboard to helping you grow into the mainstream part of the competitive scene. Do you think that at this point in the Game Changers life cycle, there has been proof that its existence has enabled a lot of women and non-binary players to kind of gain that confidence? Or do you think that there's more people who are just kind of seeing it as sort of the bubble that they want to remain in?
I think 100% there are so many women and non-binary people who now feel confident in pursuing a career in tier 1 Valorant, whether that be on a female team, on a co-ed team, whatever it may be. I think if you look at Valorant compared to Counter-Strike, there was it was just 2 CSGO teams competing for first every single time. It was Dignitas
Mhm.
and CLG Red, and every single time it was just them in finals. Now, if you look at like the brackets for every Valorant tournament that has occurred, it's different every single time besides us winning. Like there are different teams in the upper finals, like different teams qualifying every single time, signed teams getting knocked out by unsigned teams. Like there are so many more women and non-binary people competing that alone shows you how many more people are like trying so hard to get to the top. And I think obviously um some people see it as like a bubble and you shouldn't just, restrict yourself to playing in, women's tournaments, which is true. But I think if I was myself a few years ago and I wanted to play Valorant for the first time, I would not, go through matchmaking to try and find a team to play in co-ed tournaments because I would be so afraid of being harassed and like
Mm.
feeling unwelcome that the idea of playing on a women's team would be so inviting, and then using that platform, playing in women's tournaments, potentially getting signed and having an income and being able to continue a career, getting the confidence that I need to go further and play in a co-ed environment and also get my name out there and get recognized by pro players so I don't have to deal with the crap from, random gold players
Yeah.
who harass me, right? Like that just seems like it's positive for everybody. Like it's kind of a no-brainer that the women's scene does a lot for, women and non-binary people to have an outlet to play the game without fear of, being judged or being harassed by random guys.
What do you think is like the difference in the landscape of sort of the level of talent that you play against now compared to that first Game Changers series last year?
Um, well, obviously there's like quadruple the amount of teams. So it
Yeah.
is yeah, it's kind of crazy how many more teams are playing altogether, but also it seems like everybody each time is getting better. I was very impressed this time around by Misfits and Immortals. I felt like and Complexity as well. I feel like they all did so much better than people were expecting. I could tell that they were working super hard on, you know, improving and making sure that they had a good run this time around, and they did very, very well. I can tell more teams are taking it seriously, more teams are playing in co-ed. Um, More teams are just striving to be the best that they can be, and I think at the same time, we're also doing that, and it seems like we just have a really good system set up for us to improve faster than other teams, and because of the experience that we have and, you know, just like the team environment and dynamic that we have, we're all so supportive of each other and improving and doing that very quickly compared to other teams that there's still a gap between us and, some of the top, GC teams like Misfits and Shopify. Um, but I do think the gap, like, has the potential to close between, the top teams and, like, Shopify and Misfits and all the other teams, but I don't think between us and anyone else.
I think for me, one of the things that really stands out about your team in terms of, I suppose, like adaptability, consistency, and just being able to kind of face adversity in a really effective way
Mhm,
was when Annie left just
mhm.
before Series 2 this year. And you guys did have a little bit of a blip because it was the first qualifier. After that was the first qualifier where you guys did not finish in the upper bracket. But then you came back for Series 3 and didn't even drop a map.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that process of Annie leaving the team, you guys brought on Bob, and then kind of developing again.
So, yeah, Annie left. Annie was kind of unhappy competing. She wanted to focus more on content creation, which we totally respect. There was no hard feelings towards Annie. We all love Annie. But obviously it was a bit sudden, so we kind of had to figure out what wanted to do next. Obviously, Bob was kind of a no-brainer because she's easily one of the best female players in the world and had a lot of co-ed experience and experience that she could bring to our team. So obviously we reached out to her and she was also interested in joining our team. So it was a good fit in that sense. She also played Annie's role, so it was really easy to slot her in
No
because
reshuffling.
nobody had to do like role swaps, nothing like that. So that was really easy. But then just a new voice being in any team environment is obviously going to change some things around. Bob is a very vocal
Mhm.
player, and being able to fit everyone's voices in obviously takes a bit of time to adjust. Like in any team environment, if you get a new player, it's going to take time to adjust. And I think when we played in the last game changers, it was in the middle of our adjustment period. And
Mhm.
it was also our first boot camp, first time playing a tournament with Bob. Um New coaches, completely different environment that we were in, completely different team dynamic that we had. And it was just so much happening at one time that and also we were having problems at the boot camp. We got DQ'd. It was like a whole thing, and it was just a lot at once. And so I think that obviously contributed to us performing a bit worse than we normally would. I think at home, if we had played that tournament again, it wouldn't have been as close as it was, and we wouldn't have had any issues. But I obviously won't blame it all on that. We obviously made some mistakes, but I don't think we were the worst team in that tournament, obviously, because we ended up winning. But um now that we have everything set up with Bob, completely fixed our team dynamic. Not that there was any issues, but it was just a little weird because we have a new player. So now that everything is kind of set in stone, we have a really good system. Everyone knows their roles. There's no issues with anybody. Now that we have between July when we played in the last GC to now October when we played in this one, we have a lot of time to kind of adjust.
Mhm.
And it kind of showed how much, not only how much Bob improved our team, but how much we've adapted and learned from those mistakes in the last GC and all the co-ed tournaments we've played between then and now. That this was actually the least close GC we've ever played. The most rounds we dropped in a single map was 7.
Mhm.
including the grand final. So we're getting better. You know what I mean? Like we're not
Yeah.
getting worse. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely like feels like you just the way that you guys go from competition to competition. It's kind of like you go in, you have this collective goal of your improvement, what you want to get to, a really good like kind of mentality, and then you just enact that. It's like clockwork.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's definitely what it feels like from the outside. So then my question is, you know, Game Changers Champs gets announced earlier this year. I think that was between Series 1 and Series 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
What was your first reaction?
Our first reaction was like, "This is sick. We're going to Berlin." Because we had no doubt that we would qualify because after that was announced, we looked at the point system. We're like, okay, we have to come top 6. We've never even come
Yes.
second, so we're like, okay, well, we're kind of set in stone for this. Um, but yeah, we were all so hype, and I've never traveled outside the country. I don't know if all of us have, but I've
Really?
literally never left the country. Yeah, so this is gonna be insane. I'm kind of
Oh
nervous
my
about jet
god.
lag, but besides that, it's gonna be really fun.
Well, from personal experience, I will say I always get worse jet lag coming back to Europe than I do going to the US.
All right, well, that's
So
good. I
there
guess
you
that's good.
go. Wow, that's crazy. That's actually insane. I
Mhm.
mean, especially now knowing like it's in the LEC studio, right? So I know
Yeah.
there's obviously big conversation. People wish that it were a bigger venue, and I totally
Mhm.
understand that. But the fact that it is such sort of like a legendary kind of studio in esports, like that
Yeah.
must feel pretty cool.
No, yeah, for sure. Obviously, we wish, we could have a whole stadium to ourselves, but
Yeah.
just being able to play on a stage like period is so insane because we've played on a stage once and it was at Fragadelphia, which is like a small
Mhm.
LAN in Philly, and
Yeah,
it's
in Philly. Yeah.
it's obviously not, the same as an international stage playing against, all these teams from all over the world. It's going to be so fun. And we obviously have high expectations for ourselves. We want to win the whole tournament, and we are pretty confident that we can do that. We've obviously watched a lot of international teams play, and we have a good idea of what to expect. And yeah, we're pretty confident going in. But regardless of what happens competition wise, it's just gonna be so fun to meet everybody and just be in Germany because that's kind of sick. But yeah, just it's gonna be really awesome.
I mean, the point about international teams I actually think is really important here because I was going to say, like, uh, what do you think that's going to do both for kind of the scene, but just like the development of your team, the development of all of these players, whether you win or lose the championship,
Mhm.
regardless? Do you think that's going to make a big difference facing the international talent?
Yeah, I think regardless of, the outcome of the tournament, it's going to be such a learning experience to play against other regions. Obviously, we're so used to the way North America plays. A lot of the
Hmm.
teams play very similarly. Obviously, Brazil very fast paced, Europe more slow paced. Like there are play styles that we've never played against and that we've only seen in from other international competitions.
Yeah.
So being able to actually experience it and have to adapt on the spot to different teams' play styles, potentially like in the same day, have to play different play styles in the same day and have to kind of retain all that information is going to be definitely a test for us. But I think it's only going to do incredible things for the scene to, see obviously which region comes out on top, but also for everyone who's playing to learn so much from playing in these matches and to see, if we can adapt really quickly to the different play styles and the different teams.
It must feel very legitimizing as well, though, right? Like, rather than just being like, oh, yeah, we just like, we let the girls go sit in their corner and have their games. It's like, no, actually, this is a very serious international
Yeah,
competition. And there's going to be, yeah, above everything, like a ton of development that comes out of it.
for sure. Yeah.
Are you guys going to be boot camping?
Yes.
Oh, okay. How long are you going to be there in advance then?
We get there I think on the 7th. So,
That's what, 10
uh,
days before? I
yeah,
don't remember the day that
a
it starts.
it's about a week before, a week and a
A
day.
week before.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that presumably is going to be an intense week because that's when
Oh,
you're
yeah.
actually going to first like face all of
Yeah.
these different playstyles and whatever. So I guess you're kind of relying on the fact that you are a very adaptable team to be able to learn so much in that short space of time and then apply it faster than everybody else can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
Um
there
oh,
no, go on, sorry.
I was just going to say it's also very helpful that the coaches from Cloud9 Blue are also helping us out, Vapin and Vexel, who have prepped for international teams before and have also been to Berlin and played, or watched Cloud9 play in these tournaments and also have an idea of how other regions play as well. So we have an
Mhm.
advantage in that sense as well. But also for teams who aren't boot camping, which I doubt there's very many teams who are not boot camping, um, you also have somewhat of an advantage because not only are you getting prepped for all the regions, but you're also like you have to get used to the time zone, the eating schedule, the sleeping schedule. Like you need time to adjust to those things. Obviously, I'm speaking out of no experience because I've never left the country, but from what I've heard, you kind of have to adjust, and having an adjustment
Yeah.
period too is going to be so helpful.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely going to be like, I've obviously never gone abroad to play in a competition, but I will say, like, there's some, even just like a cultural sort of,
Right.
like change that you just have to adjust to slightly. Like, it'll be
Hmm.
fun and you'll love it, but it will be like, oh, this isn't home.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, that change of environment definitely catching up on the sleeve. Are there any teams in particular that you are excited to play, nervous to play, particularly looking out for?
We obviously want to get the G2 goes in a rivalry, we want to get that put in place, you know what I mean? We definitely are excited to play, G2 goes in and Guild. But I think us as a team specifically, we definitely want to see how we go up against Team Liquid. And I think
Right.
the big reason for that is they are so mechanically skilled. And obviously we are as well, but I would like to see just how, because we think they're easily one of the best teams going to Berlin, and we just want to see how we go up against them. We stack up because I don't know, it's gonna be fun. We love all the girls on Liquid, and it's just gonna be really fun. But yeah, definitely Liquid for us, probably.
I'm actually really interested here because, in every esport, there's always a discussion about which region's the best, why, and if the esport's been around long enough, you start to see patterns. For example, with Worlds going on at the moment, there's a lot of conversation about why NA has gotten gradually worse in League of Legends.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, do you think that there's a chance that sort of the dominant regions in Game Changers could be different to how it is in the men's tournaments? The reason I ask that is, for example, the East Asian team who are going are predominantly Japanese. I think they have one Korean player on there. Whereas, like, obviously in a lot of esports, you talk about Korea as being a very dominant region.
Mhm.
So do you think there's going to be a difference there? Are you anticipating anything like that? Or do you think it's like way too early to tell?
I think it will very likely be different just because, for one, you know, in terms of just numbers, there are very few female teams compared to male teams. And to say that the skill of the female players on these teams are going to directly correlate to the skill of the male teams in the region kind of just mathematically probably won't happen.
Yeah.
And also, we obviously don't know how these teams play or if they even are playing the same way as their region. Like, we could adopt a completely, European way of playing the game if we wanted to. So it kind of will really depend on the female teams who are coming and playing in this, but I doubt that it'll correlate exactly the same. Just because there's just so few, like, female and non-binary teams and players, and it's just it just might not stack up that way. But
Yeah.
it would be like an interesting experiment to kind of see if it correlates the exact same way as, the VCT champs does.
Yeah. No, I'm actually really interested to see that as well and see if there is much of a difference, because I think obviously EU and NA always get spoken about as huge dominant regions.
Hmm.
And I think the fact that there has been such repetition in this kind of like the top teams of the regions
Yeah.
with you guys, G2 goes in, although obviously they didn't win the grand finals of the
Yeah.
last series, so who knows, maybe something changing there. Like it does make me wonder how that's gonna turn out. And so I think getting a
Hmm.
first look into that with the champs is gonna be really wild.
Hmm.
Um so looking into the future, what's next for you guys? Let's say I don't even know if this will make a difference, but let's say if you win champs and if you don't win champs, is that going to make a change in sort of how you approach things in the future? What things looking like?
I don't think winning Berlin will kind of make any difference for us as a team. Obviously, that is our goal. Our short-term goal right now is to
Hmm.
just go to Berlin, be as dominant as we possibly can, improve ourselves. But outside of that, I think our main goal consistently since MAJKL, since we've been a team, is just to play in as many co-ed tournaments as we can and get as far as we can. I think we jumped from, I think, 150 NA to top 40 in the last few months since we picked up Bob. So
Jesus.
our improvement is exponential right now. And I do want more co-ed experience. I want more experience against tier 1 teams in matches. I want I just want to see how we stack up now that we've improved so much over the last few months. And that's just that's always been our goal. We want to be the best team ever, and right now we're like in the top 50 or top 45 or something like that. So being able to go even higher in the ranks, I think we could potentially get to top 20 by, in the next 3 to 6 months if we keep working as we're doing right now. So I think that's probably what's next for us. Obviously, long term, we all want to be tier 1 players. Getting picked up to tier 1 teams or becoming a tier 1 team ourselves is the long term goal for sure.
Are you guys while playing in Game Changers, are you allowed to also qualify for Ascension?
I don't know if that's even been confirmed yet. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I would assume you are, because
I
that would
would
be a bit
assume
strange if they like
yes.
banned you from doing it and made you
Yeah,
pick.
if we couldn't, I would cause an outrage on Twitter. I would post my Twitter longer immediately. Um, if we couldn't, that would be really bad. I do know in the past that there was one Game Changers that came around that was like right on top of a VCT qualifier. So I hope that the dates don't conflict with some kind of female tournament. Obviously, we would
Right.
prioritize the co-ed tournament over the female tournament, but um, I hope there's nothing like that that makes it harder for us to compete in it. Um, but yeah, obviously playing in Ascension is kind of the next step in terms of getting co-ed experience. So hopefully we can do that and qualify for the league.
With Cloud9 now obviously having been confirmed entering the partnership program with their their main team. Have they, now maybe I'm asking too much here because I suspect that I'm about to walk into NDA territory here, but have they spoken to you guys about any kind of projects or initiatives or cool things in the work for next year, like investments into the team that they're gonna be doing with both you and the other team, or just for you guys or anything like that?
I plead the fifth.
No, come on. That doesn't exist in my country.
No, I can't say the plans. You gotta ask Jack. You gotta DM him if you want to know.
Oh man, that's not. He's never gonna reply to me. I figured I would try, but the fact that you plead the fifth and you don't just say no, that's exciting to hear.
Yeah.
For you personally, how do you reflect on your development as a player?
I'm genuinely very proud of myself and how I've improved since 2020, since this game has come out. I've found my passion as a player. I found my confidence. I've found so much skill and so much support from my team. I went through a lot of struggles, I won't lie, coming up as a player. I had a lot of issues with confidence. I still somewhat do. Um, just thinking that I was the worst all the time, even though we were winning everything. Like, I
Yeah.
just had a lot of confidence problems, but also being able to have a voice on the team is my favorite part of competing. Like, I love this is gonna sound so dumb. I love calming. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I don't think
I
that's dumb. I think if anything, it's a good thing.
yeah, no, I like to I for a long time I was our secondary IGL. Bob kind of takes
Mhm.
that role, but I also will sometimes also help. It's kind of hard to have like a third IGL, but
Yeah.
for a long time I was second IGL, and that was my like passion was being able to help Mel IGLing. And I think having the opportunity to IGL in the future would be really, really awesome for me. Um I also think initiator is such a perfect role for me in that case too, because
It's the best role. I'm just.
no, literally. I I love setting up my team. I love being able to control the pace of a round. I love being able to mid round. Um, just everything. I love the role that I play, and just being able to see my improvement, like, statistically, but also watching a VOD from 2020, I cringe so hard. Like, I can see, like, how much I've improved in the last 2 years, and I feel like I'm improving so, so fast now, and I think the last GC was statistically, like, my best GC, so I think the future is so bright for me. I don't know. I don't care if that's egotistical. I don't give a fuck.
No, fucking own it.
Yeah, I really I have very, very high expectations for myself for the next year, for sure.
That's sick. What do you think that shitty little Silver II CS player would think of you now?
Oh my god. No, she would probably, like, throw up if she saw me right now. I'm not gonna lie. She would
What would her
have
brother think of you?
Oh my god, no, my brother oh my gosh. No, I did an interview with him a while ago, and he admitted that he wishes we would swap places and that he had kept playing CS, but he stopped because he was like, "Man, I suck at this game." And I was like, "I want to be so good at this game." And then
Oh
I
my
was
God.
I was so happy to finally be better than him at a game that was like that was accomplishment enough for me, but then I just kept going with it.
I get
But
it.
yeah, I was if my literal 13, 14-year-old self saw me now, she would have an aneurysm, probably. She would be so proud.
That's insane. Before we finish it, if you could say, like, in your realistic dream, where you want to be this time next year, what would that be?
Um, this time next year, I think I would want to be on a co-ed team. I don't think I will be competing in Game Changers by this time next year. I think I want to see how far I can get in the co-ed scene and then eventually move from tier 2 to tier 1. I think that's kind of where I see myself going. How that will happen and what steps I will need to take to get there, I'm not entirely sure yet. But I think after winning so much in Game Changers, um,
It gets boring, doesn't it?
it kind the novelty kind of wears away. Obviously I love my team. I would love to play with them for the rest of my life, but I think there's just obviously all of us want to be the best player in the world, and we're all going to take the steps that we need to get there, and yeah.
That's insane. I mean, your whole journey has been crazy and you make it very easy to root for you. So honestly, best of luck in champs next, I nearly said next week, not next week, don't worry. Best of luck in champs next month. You guys have been crazy and I'm so excited to see where you guys are this time next year. Before you go, is there anything you want to just say to the universe?
Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Alexis. Thanks.
Love that. Nice bit of self promo. No thanking the fans. Just follow me on Twitch.
Well, I'll thank the fans on my Twitch stream. Thank you.